The door shook under their fists, and in the dim glow of the hallway, my son's small hand tightened around a wire. She thought breaking in would be easy. She thought no one was ready. But she didn't know what my son had planned. Then chaos erupted. A sudden crash. A paint can swung through the dark like a wrecking ball. Sparks lit up as metal clashed with wood. Karen's scream pierced through the night. Just as the distant wail of sirens grew louder, Karen had a plan. But my son, he had something better, an ingenious trap that turned our home into a fortress. And tonight, she picked the wrong house. Karen's evil plan failed because my son is a genius. There's a peculiar stillness to an empty HOA, kind of silence that stretches and hums, pressing against your ears until you feel its weight. That silence was supposed to cradle my son Ethan in safety while I sat through yet another suffocating HOA meeting. That was the plan. But plans shatter easily, especially when Karen is involved. The woman is a storm disguised as a human being. All brittle smiles and manicured nails until she decides to bare her fangs. The HOA board adored her tyranny. They mistook her venom for leadership. I knew better. I had seen the glint in her eyes when she spoke about community standards. It wasn't order she craved, it was dominion. So when she stood that morning at the edge of my driveway, smirking behind oversized sunglasses, a chill gnawed at the back of my mind. Her words were casual, but her tone dripped malice. Some people forget their place in this neighborhood. I fixed that. I should have stayed home. I should have listened to that instinct clawing at my chest. But I didn't. I locked the door, kissed Ethan's forehead, and promised I'd be back by sunset. He smiled up at me, fearless as ever, eh? Boy with a grin that could outshine the sun. Don't worry, Mom. I can handle Karen. I laughed then. God help May laughed. The HOA meeting dragged on like an execution. Arguments over lawn heights, mailbox colors, the usual soul-sucking trivialities. But then my phone vibrated. A sharp, insistent buzz against the polished wood of the conference table. Motion detected. Living room. I frowned. Probably the cat, or Ethan sneaking snacks. But then, another alert. Front door breach. My blood iced. Breach. Not unlocked. Not opened. Breach. Hands trembling. I launched the live feed. What I saw nearly stopped my heart, Karen, standing in my foyer like a serpent that had shed all pretense of civility. Her lips were curled in a smile so cold it burned. Behind her loomed men, mountains of muscle draped in leather jackets, their hands clutching crowbars gleaming under my hallway light. And then, through the wide-angle lens, I glimpsed Ethan half-hidden. At the top of the stairs, clutching the railing, eyes sharp as a hawk's, not crying, not screaming, just thinking, calculating. The audio crackled to life, carrying Karen's voice through my speakers, each syllable dipped in venom. The board has voted. This property is now under HOA control. Consider this a repossession. I bolted upright. Chair screeching across the floor, my breath clawing up my throat. Ethan, I whispered, voice quivering as though he could hear me through the void. Stay hidden, please, baby. Just stay hidden. But Ethan didn't stay hidden because my son isn't ordinary. He's a genius. And that night he was about to prove it. Ethan did not run. He did not cry. He moved like water, silent, purposeful, calculating. From the safety of the HOA conference room, I watched the feed with shaking hands, my pulse thrumming like a war drum. Every instinct of me screamed to leave, to tear across streets and shatter every speed limit between us, but by the time I got there, could be too late. Downstairs, Karen prowled like a queen surveying her stolen kingdom. She trailed her manicured fingers along the mantel, eyes glittering with cruel satisfaction. The two brutes flanked her like wolves, crowbars tapping against their palms in rhythmic promise. Find the kid, she commanded, her voice silk over steel. We don't need him calling the cops before this is done, the taller goon grunted, already stomping toward the staircase. That sound, a thud of boots on wood, snapped something inside me. My son was upstairs, trapped, except wasn't acting trapped. Through the next camera angle, I saw Ethan dart into his bedroom, His face appeared for half a second, set fierce, a mask of pure resolve. He didn't reach for a phone. He reached for his toolbox. The boy was moving like a chess master, plotting the final gambit. First, the hallway. He dragged his old science fair volcano, the one rigged with baking soda and vinegar, out of the closet. But this time, the lava. Wasn't harmless fizz. No. Ethan emptied half a bottle of industrial-strength bathroom cleaner into the mix. Then he set it just beyond the corner of the landing, wires and duct tape holding everything in precarious balance. Next, he snatched the extension cord from his gaming setup, stripped the rubber casing with a pair of pliers, and wound the exposed copper around the metal doorknob of his room. His face glistened with sweat, but his hands never faltered. He was building a gauntlet. Below, Kieran's voice slithered up the stairs. "Sweetheart," she cooed. That false kindness curdled with menace. "Come out now, and we won't have to hurt you." Hurt you? God. The words made my stomach twist into knots. The first thug appeared in the frame. Lumbering up the staircase, crowbar swinging lazily like a pendulum, he paused at the landing, nostrils flaring, eyes scanning, and then it happened. The toe of his boot nudged the edge of the volcano. A single second stretched into an eternity's brows, knitting in confusion just as the makeshift trap toppled. The reaction was violent. A white froth erupted with a hiss and a surge, splattering his jeans and burning through the fabric like acid. Fire. He howled a guttural, animal sound, dropping the crowbar as the corrosive mix chewed through denim and into flesh. The camera trembled as he stumbled backward, crashing into the railing. Karen's shriek pierced the audio, sharp and livid. "What the hell are you doing? Get him." The second thug lunged forward, hauling his screaming partner away, but Ethan wasn't done. From his doorway, he flicked a switch. Sparks spat and danced as the live wire kissed the metal knob. The doorknob glowed faintly red, shimmering with heat and current like a coiled serpent ready to strike. He crouched low, whispering to himself like a soldier bracing for war. "Come on, take the bait." Karen, furious pride stunk, snatched the crowbar and began climbing herself. I could only watch, nails carving half-moons into my palms, as my son prepared to outwit a monster. Because this was no longer about hiding. This was a hunt, and Ethan was the predator now. Karen's heels clicked against the hardwood, a slow, venomous rhythm echoing like a countdown to chaos. Each step, deliberate. Each breath, seething with a fury that could blister paint. On my screen, her face filled the frame, a mask of triumph stretched thin over a simmering storm. Gone was the saccharine smile, the HOA charm. This was something primal, something that devoured reason whole. "You think you're clever, boy?" she hissed into the silence, voice coiling through the hall like smoke. "You think you can humiliate me in my community, her community?" The words landed like a slap. My grip on the edge of the table whitened my knuckles. If sheer rage could cross miles, she would have already burned me to ash. The hallway stretched before her like a loaded gun. At its far end, Ethan's door, closed, waiting. But Karen didn't see what I saw through the camera, the cord snaking. Discreetly from the outlet, the faint shimmer of copper at the doorknob's base. The nearly invisible sheen of water Ethan had spilled across the landing. She didn't know the floor was now a conductor, slick and lethal beneath her stilettos. The first thug's groans drifted faintly from below, burned, broken, whimpering like a wounded animal. The second had vanished into the kitchen, likely hunting. For towels or courage, Karen gripped the crowbar like a royal scepter. She paused at the threshold of Ethan's ambush, her lips curling into a predator's grin. "Last chance, sweetheart," she purred, resting the crowbar against her shoulder. "Come out now, or I make this messy." Behind the door, my son moved like a whisper, shadows flitting over his face. His jaw was clenched, his eyes sharp, merciless, fixed on the crack of light beneath the frame. He waited. 1 heartbeat. 2. Karen's manicured hand extended, fingers grazing the doorknob. Sparks leaped like angry fireflies. She recoiled with a startled yelp, shaking her hand. Her eyes narrowed. She tried again, this time gripping the crowbar like a lever, metal kissing metal, A sizzling arc snapped in protest, but Karen's pride was a fortress. She shoved, wood groaning under pressure, oblivious to the crescendo building beneath her feet. Ethan's lips moved soundlessly, counting down, timing every breath with surgical precision. 3, 2, 1. The next push splintered the doorframe, and the trap sang. A blue-white explosion ripped through the hallway, a blinding fork of light detonating like summer lightning. Karen screamed a ragged, blood-curdling sound as current danced across the crowbar, through her arm, and spat molten fury into the air. She staggered backward, limbs jerking in grotesque marionette spasms, the crowbar clattering away in a rain of sparks. Her perfumance cloying was now laced with the bitter sting of ozone. She collapsed against the wall, chest heaving, eyes wide with feral disbelief. From behind the door, Ethan spoke for the first time, calm, cold. "You should have stayed out of my house." Silence swallowed the hallway whole. Only Karen's ragged breathing remained, her empire of arrogance crumbling plank by plank. But the game wasn't over. Not yet. Because downstairs, a new sound slithered through the mica metallic click, sharp and unmistakable. The second thug was back, and this time he wasn't holding a towel, he was holding a gun. And Ethan, he had seconds. The sound was unmistakable. Metallic slide, a muted clacked, cruel language of a gun being chambered. It slithered through the house like a whispered death sentence. I froze. Breath caught in my throat as the camera feed split into chaos. Corinne crumpled against the wall, her limbs twitching from the electric kiss of Ethan's trap. And below, the kitchen camera caught a figure moving with predatory calm. The second thug, heavier built than the first, his hoodie damp with sweat and rain, face grim with murderous intent. The pistol gleamed under the kitchen light like a shard of midnight. Ethan didn't flinch. On the upstairs feed, he crouched beside his nightstand, eyes narrow, every muscle wired tight with purpose. He knew he had seconds. I whispered his name pointless, a father's instinct clawing through static. But my son couldn't hear me. He didn't need to. He already had a plan. Downstairs, the thug's boots thudded on tile, methodical, patient like a wolf scenting blood. He stepped over his writhing partner, pausing only to sneer at the burned flesh, then started up the staircase, slow, deliberate. Each step an iron verdict. Karen groaned softly behind him, mascara streaking her face, pride shattered like the splintered doorframe. Her voice rasped through clenched teeth. "Don't. Let him win." But she was no longer a queen. She was wreckage. Ethan moved, silent as breath. He tore the bedsheet into strips, yanking free the paint cans he'd hidden earlier. He looped the cord of his gaming headset around the doorknob, anchoring it to the dresser like a coiled serpent. Every motion was swift, calculated a storm inside a 10-year-old frame, and then her waited. The thug reached the landing, gun raised, eyes scanning the shadows. His voice rolled up the hall, deep and cold. "Kid, this is over. Come out and I'll make it quick." No answer. Right. Just the hum of the house holding its breath. Another step. His boot kissed the water Ethan had spilled earlier. A faint squeak. His head twitched too late. Ethan's fingers tightened on the makeshift trigger. The dresser lunged forward like a battering ram, the cord snapping taut. The door yawned open and gravity roared. The paint cans, heavy as sin, swung down in a steel arc, slamming into the thug's skull with bone-cracking force. The gun exploded in a deafening bark as his finger spasmed. A wild shot carving splinters into the ceiling, then silence thick. Absolute punctured only by the thug's collapse, his body a heap at Karen's feet. The pistol clattered down, the stairs spinning into the void. Karen's scream shredded the stillness. Raw animal. She crawled toward the gun, fingers clawing at the wood, nails snapping. But Ethan was faster. He slid across the wet floor, seized the weapon, and leveled it with a steadiness that stole the air from my lungs. For a heartbeat. Time fractured, Karen staring up at the boy she'd tried to break, her reflection glimmering in the barrel's dark eye. You should have stayed out of our lives, Ethan said, voice low, iron and velvet. Sirens wailed in the distance, slicing through the tension. Blue strobes flickered against the windows, painting Karen's face in hues of impending ruin. She collapsed, sobbing, the fight bleeding out of her in torrents. Behind her, the thug moaned, a broken beast shackled by his own violence, and Ethan. My son stood like a sentinel carved in steel, the gun steady, his breath calm, waiting for the door to burst open with uniforms and salvation. When the cops stormed in seconds later, chaos erupted, but Ethan never blinked. Not once. Karen was dragged out screaming, her HOA crown shattered, her empire turned to ash. The thugs followed, broken and bruised, their menace swallowed by flashing lights. And Ethan, I finally looked at the camera, at me, and he smiled, a smile that said, I told you, Dad, I've got this.